Hello, everybody. J Real here once again. And hopefully, my partner Noah is going to be joining me here pretty soon to further discuss the 200 top 200 horror films according to Rotten Tomatoes. And it's been an interesting list because Rotten Tomatoes is the list that the general public votes on films, gives their scores, and so that's, I guess, they compiled the scores of horror films and came up with this top 200 list based on the public's scores. And there's been some interesting things on the list. There's been some obvious choices. There's been some surprises. There's been some movies that I haven't seen, several movies that I haven't seen. There's been a few I haven't heard of. So I'm making a list of films that I definitely want to check out. There's been some films that have been so low on the list that I'm surprised they're so low, that I think they should be much higher on the list as far as horror films, or the score that they should have. But yeah, it's been a very interesting list. And Noah, please show up. Please join me, sir. I don't want to do this by myself. I'll wait here a few more minutes, and then I'll send him a message and make sure everything's okay on his end. But what's going on with me? Well, you see me with showing my body and all that. It's hot, still hot in Texas. It's the lower 90s here. And here it is, late October. It should be in the 70s. But nope, low 90s. Like 90, 91 degrees. It's broke some heat records the last few days. Yeah. Hopefully, by the next weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend, hopefully we'll have a cold front coming in that will knock the temperatures down at least more comfortable, closer to Halloween. We're having hopefully some rain chances because we've been dry. This has been the driest month. Well, not ever, but October for Texas is typically the second wettest month of the year, is what I think they said. And it's been dry, just bone dry, just traces amounts of rain. And I got just a window air conditioner. So yeah, I'm showing, I'm in my boxer briefs and I'm in the shirt, showing my body. Not trying to show off anything, but I'm just trying to be comfortable. And still not seeing Noah. So let me send Noah a real quick message. And hope that he's able to join me, because I really don't want to do this by myself. Okay, he says he don't think the link is working. So hang on. Let me try it again for him. All right. I don't know if I'm going to disappear here, but forgive me if I do. All right. Okay. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay. All right. I have sent him the link again. So hopefully that works for him. And we'll see. Okay, Noah. Yeah, well, the Poet 2000 says The Omen was real low on the list, in my opinion. Yeah. Have we got to the Omen? I think we've got to the Omen yet. But yes, you are right. It is low on the list. And here is Noah. Thank goodness. Well, hang on. All right. Okay. He came on and then he disappeared. So try again, Noah. Let's see. There we go.
There we are.
There we are. Yeah. Hey, how you doing, sir?
Better now.
Better now, yeah. Well, let me, and yes, I am in my boxers. I'm going to lean back. I'm trying not to show, reveal too much, because I'm nearly 60, so downstairs it's Sanford and Son. And so hopefully I'm not going to reveal anything that's uncomfortable to you guys. But yeah, it's hot here. Even with this window AC that I've got just all I've got is just a single window AC in my kitchen here, and it takes care of the living room, and it's still like 85 degrees in here, even with the AC. So, but what's going on with you, Noah? Before we begin here,
Not much. Been a busy week. Haven't had much time to watch anything. I did get to watch the new Salem's Lot.
I want to see that. And what would you recommend it?
It's kind of tough. It wasn't good, but it wasn't the worst thing either. So, I mean, it's probably if you don't feel like sitting through the Tobe Hooper version that's 3.5 hours long or whatever, it's an option. But I'd be hard pressed to say you should check it out.
Well, what was it? 4 or 5 days ago, my neighbors down the road that live at the campground down there at Home Place, they took pity on me and took me to a drive-in. And oh gosh, what was the name of that town? Good Lord. Anyway, and it was a nice old drive-in, old beat-up screen, just how you want it, old. Just I don't know how old this drive-in is. Probably, good 30, 40 years, if not longer than that. But at 5 screens, and I saw Terrifier 3. And that was the way to watch Terrifier 3, sitting in a lawn chair. We had a cold front come in that actually knocked the temperatures down pretty cool. So it was like in the upper 50s or something. I'm out there in my shorts. I'm barefooted, sitting in a lawn chair. A little bit, but my friend Tim let me borrow he had a little jacket. Let me wear that, and sitting in a lawn chair, and drinking a Buc-ee's large Dr. Pepper, and watching Terrifier 3, and it was perfect. Just the perfect package to put Terrifier 3 into is watching it on a drive-in, an old screen, and all these cars parked around, and watching Terrifier 3. Yeah, very cool. And I hadn't been to a drive-in in like 30 years. There used to be one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there used to be one in Corsicana, Texas, that I saw several films there. But that was back when I was going to Navarra College, So, yeah, easily 30 years ago. And, yeah, just so cool. As for the movie itself, I think I still like part 2 better. Because I think Art is scarier and more intense and more frightening in 2. And he's more comical in 3.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
They go more for comedy in this one. Comedy with a shitload of gore.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, children are killed, but but it was handled very well. That aspect of it, everything's off screen with the kids. Um, you see the aftermath. You see severed limbs and things.
Right.
But if you're going to kill children, I think it was handled the best way that could be handled. And for some people, that's the line that you would draw. But I don't think there is a line. I don't draw a line. It's the way it's handled.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much any subject I'm okay with if you handle it the right way. And I think Terrifier 3 handled that aspect well. Because it was all off screen. You hear, particularly at the beginning, there's Art goes upstairs and there's a kid in his bedroom sleeping, and you hear what's going on in the bedroom, but you don't see it. You see the aftermath, but
right.
And I don't know. I really did enjoy it. I definitely would. It would be my second favorite, I think. But and then when you get to things like, Clint Howard shows up, you get a little Tom Savini, cameo. Well, when you start bringing in familiar faces like that, to me, you kind of lose the impact of the sort of the world that Terrifier's contained in. When you bring
it takes you out of it a little, yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, cool, there's Tom Savini. Oh, cool, there's Clint Howard. But at the same time, that kind of brings you out of that sort of, when there's no familiar faces like that in like Terrifier 2 and in the first film, it's creepier, it's more impactful, I think. And this is more of a wink to the audience. Oh, look, there's Tom Savini, and there's, Clint Howard or whatever, and there's other familiar faces in there. But I really did enjoy it. And like I say, watching it at a drive-in was just the perfect scenario,
yeah, that's cool. You got to see it at the drive-in.
Yeah. And eating cold nachos. And then Tim bought a pizza and eating, drive-in pizza. And yeah, it was, I can't thank those guys enough for taking me, because I know they weren't thrilled about seeing this movie. But they did it for me, and I sure appreciate it. So
that's great.
But yeah, and before we begin with the list, the one thing is, I've got a positive thing happening with my movie, the list, and then I got a negative thing. The positive thing is that Parrish Randall, who is actually a paid actor, he does a lot of Texas stuff, a lot of independent films. He does some films in Los Angeles and stuff. But anyway, he's going to play a role in the film, a key role in the film. He says he will. Had a long talk to him. He was in my last film, Crystal. But I also learned today that one of my sister actresses, there's two girls, the main characters, is having to bow out. So I've got to recast her. And I played around with my 4K camera. The images look beautiful, and I played around with that 4K light, but that's still a pretty big file, And my laptop and my editing computer, I've got a desktop that's like 7 or 8 years old. It's just barely plays any of the footage. It's just real choppy because it's just too much for it. So I need to get a new laptop. I'm eyeing one on Amazon. It's a Hewlett Packard, 32 gigabytes, and it's actually I saw it on a list that actually recommends it for editing, film editing.
Oh, okay.
But after I get a 2-year warranty on it, it's nearly $700. So I haven't got it yet. I probably will break down and get it because I'm going to need it for editing, and for putting the footage on and all that. Because, like I say, what I've got just won't handle this new technology very well. So,
sure.
But if anyone out there wants to make a donation, I'm not above poverty taking charity. And you let me know. I'll send you the link to the Amazon, the laptop, and you can donate to my movie, and I'll give you full credit and all that. Or finance, you just want to donate some money. I'll take it. I never have done a crowdfunding kind of thing because I'm on disability, and the taxes would mess with my disability payments. I'm on Social Security.
Yeah.
And because of I'm blind in my left eye, and so I'm on disability. So anyway, having said all of that, let's get back to the list. The top 200 horror films according to Rotten Tomatoes. And we're at 122 now. And can you see the list?
No? Yes, I have it this time.
Okay. This is the movie version of an LSD trip. And once again, we got our old pal Nick Cage. He's popped up on this list at least two or three times.
2 or 3 times, yeah.
Yeah. And he's back again. And that is Mandy. And this is 2018. Panos Cosmatos. Am I pronouncing that right? Or anywhere near it right?
I think so.
Mandy's gonzo violence is fueled by a gripping performance by Nicolas Cage, anchored with palatable emotion conveyed between his volcanic outbursts. Now, this is a film where Nick Cage goes full Nick Cage, but the movie perfectly balances his performance because the movie itself, I've never been on LSD, but I would imagine that Mandy kind of gives you sort of an idea of what it's like to be on LSD. It's psychedelic. It's intense. It's very colorful. If you have a 4K TV and a 4K player and can watch Mandy in 4K, I can imagine what it looks like. It must look dazzling. And basically, the plot is Nick Cage, and it's either his wife or his girlfriend. I forget what it is, but they're basically kidnapped by some sort of religious cult, some sort of wacky religious, organization, religious cult. And long story short, the wife or girlfriend is sacrificed in front of Nicolas Cage. She's burned alive, isn't she?
Mm-hmm.
And then Nick goes on a rampage, on a revenge killing spree. And speaking of LSD, well, the cult members take LSD and they force Nicolas Cage to take it. And so he spends, I think, a majority of this film zonked out of his head on acid. And but anyway, what do you have to say about it?
It's a great movie. It's a lot of fun, and it's weird and wild and over the top, but it also has like a solid like emotional core, which is hard to pull off when you're doing all this crazy stuff, I think. And yeah, I mean, everything about it is great, from the visuals to the acting, action. It reminds me very much of like an impressionist painting, the colors and the audio, I think what surprises me the most, though, is that this director has not made a film since.
I was going to ask you that.
It's been 6 years, and this was a big hit. So I don't know what's happening there, because after watching this, I'm like, okay, what do you got next? But
well, yeah, definitely. After seeing this, it's like he was a director that I was looking to see what he's going to do next. After putting out something like this, that's so visually dazzling, and another really good performance by Nicolas Cage. Like you say, it gets emotional. I watched Color Out of Space last night. We talked about that.
Yeah.
And I kind of compared the performance in Color Out of Space to his performance here, even though this one is much more intense. Color Out of Space is got more comedy to it, more humor to it, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
but talking about the alpacas and you know, he says more about alpacas than I've ever heard anyone speak of that. And Color Out of Space. Uh, but that's another great, visually great, and a great performance by Nick Cage. But yeah, this one, and I think Nick Cage had said that this is his favorite film. It was either this or Pig that he said was actually his favorite film that he's been in. Man, uh, but yeah, definitely a high recommendation if you haven't seen it. If you haven't seen Mandy, um, you're going to have a wild ride. You're going to go on watching Mandy. Yeah, 2018, 90% score, and yeah, yeah, and that's 122. Okay, here we go. 121. 121 would probably be on a lot of people's list as the number one horror film, is their favorite. It's not mine, although it's really high on my list. I don't know how I would rate it. Maybe 4 or 5. The Shining. Uh, yeah. 1980. Of course, Stanley Kubrick, Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, Danny Lloyd is the little boy, Scatman Crothers. Um, though it deviates from Stephen King's novel very, very much so.
Mm-hmm.
Stanley Kubrick's The Shining is a chilling, often baroque journey into madness, exemplified by an unforgettable turn from Jack Nicholson. Yeah. As far as performances by an actor, where it's just like, well, if you want to see acting done at its top, Jack Nicholson in The Shining. um, Now, the complaint that Stephen King always had about Kubrick's version is he's basically nuts from the very beginning, almost from the first frame, uh, and just gets crazier. You know, he starts off pretty wild or pretty nuts, and just gets nuttier, particularly when they get to the Overlook. Uh, but still, a fantastic performance by Jack Nicholson, one of his best. Um, and Shelley Duvall, my complaint about Shelley Duvall, and that's not her fault by any means, is that she's just a cowering, screaming victim through the whole thing. Now, in the book, the wife is strong. She stands up for herself. She protects her son. She stands up to him, Jack, um, and that's not Shelley Duvall's character. Now, it's not her fault in the least. It's Stanley Kubrick's decision to make her character that way. And the poor woman had her hair falling out making this film with Stanley Kubrick. He was abusive to her, and she was literally pulling her hair out during the making of this film. Uh, and of course, she passed away, a few months ago, Shelley Duvall. She had some emotional issues throughout her life and was dealing with a lot of heavy stuff. But this movie certainly didn't help her. But as far as just a great film, a great horror film, The Shining is one of the best.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot you can say that hasn't already been said. I do find a few things interesting about it and its current status, because I feel like over the last maybe like 5 or 10 years, there has been more of a backlash against it in terms of opinions. Um, and obviously a lot of that has to do with Shelley Duvall and the conversations around her treatment on set and stuff like that. But I think she does an amazing job with the little she is given, you know, and she is very underappreciated for her performance in this. And I kind of disagree a little bit with people who think that Torrance's or Nicholson's performance is not nuanced enough at the beginning, you know, where it seems like, oh, he's already kind of unbalanced or whatever. I get that. But I think.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is as we're heading. You hear that, honey? You saw it on the television. And the way he says that is just like,
Yeah.
But go ahead.
I think some of that's just his personality too, in the way he acts, I think. But no, I mean, for me, the scene in the bar and the restroom, those two scenes might be maybe one of the greatest scenes in horror.
Yeah, I will agree. One of the best scenes in horror.
Yeah. I think as for faithfulness to the book, I don't really care about that, simply because it's, movies are movies and books are books, and sometimes you got to change things, and that's just the way it is,
Well, just taking The Shining is just a film, just a standalone film, and forget about the book, but just as a work of art on its own, it's great.
Right. And you know what? You're going to have to, when you got like a 600-page book and a 2-hour movie, things are going to have to be cut or changed, and it's just the way it is. And, I mean, not that Stephen King needs any advice from anybody or any more good luck or anything, but he's certainly entitled to his criticisms, but just get over it,
Well, yeah. I agree.
He got that TV miniseries that was more accurate, but incredibly awful, so.
Well, actually, I like it. I like the miniseries. I don't love it. It doesn't compare by any means to the movie, to Kubrick's movie, but I like the miniseries.
I'm being a little unfair because if you watched it, if you could watch it in a vacuum, it would be different. But when you've got this,
by comparison,
it's just never gonna,
But no, it's a great film. We won't go over key scenes and stuff, but just Kubrick as a filmmaker, one of the early uses of Steadicam, and just great scenes, great shots, great filmmaking, and Jack Nicholson at the top of his game, being full on Jack. You get, if you're a fan of Jack Nicholson, well, this is Jack at his best, Jack Nicholson.
Yep.
But yeah. Like I said, we could do a show just talk about The Shining, and shows have been done that go on for 2 hours talking about just The Shining. So, but yeah, and it's got just an 83% score, which I think it's way too low on the list too.
Yeah.
At 121, 1980. Yeah. But yeah. Now I watched this 3-4 days ago. 120. I've seen it. Be the third or fourth time I've seen The Witch. 2015, 91% score. In 1630 New England, panic and despair envelop a farmer and his wife and their children. But I'm actually reading the. Hang on. As thought-provoking as it is visually compelling, The Witch delivers a deeply unsettling exercise in slow-building horror that suggests great things for debuting writer-director Robert Eggers. And that's another director that after I saw this, is like, okay, what have you got next? The Witch, oh man, I love this movie, and I love the accurate detail that he went into, the director, into the the dialogue, the way they spoke back then, you can tell he really did research on how people talk to each other. You know, the speak, you know, the speak patterns or things people say, the way that people say things. But hang on. Robert Eggers, director, 91% score. Anna Taylor Joy, Ralph Ineson, Kate Dickey, Harvey Scrimshaw. Basically, it's kind of going back into the days of the, witch trials, or way back when, if you acted a certain way, you were accused of being a witch. And so this family, they've moved away from the city. They moved to a rural location. They're scrapping by to try to survive, just to shoot food, just to survive. They're having a really rough time, and the daughter. Well, anyway, I almost don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it, because this is such a great movie that I always want. If you haven't seen it, you need to see The Witch. So I'll let you take over. What do you have?
Yeah, definitely. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's one of the best horror movies in the last 10 years, probably. I love Robert Eggers. I like all his movies. Anya Taylor-Joy is fantastic in this. I mean, she just helped make her career, essentially. And I think, the detail is very precise in this, but I think what makes this movie somewhat, for me, is that, even though it's historical and about these supernatural elements, it is very relatable. I think the way in which the audience can relate to Anya Taylor-Joy's character, because she is, well, for anybody who is the black sheep of their family, or knows what that feeling is like, to be othered, to be not cared for in a simple way that you should when it comes to your family, or disagreeing with somebody on religious standpoints. I mean, they leave the town, a Puritan town, because they're too conservative for the Puritans. I mean, it's a movie about extremes, and I think that those themes and that messaging will always kind of keep it current,
Yeah. Well, also they moved to a place where they're fighting to survive.
Right.
Just to put food on the table, just to, and doing a very poor job of it. The father, bless his heart, he certainly tries, but he's unskilled at hunting. He's unskilled at everything that it would take to provide for his family. And to go to the title, The Witch, well, yes, there is a witch. And there's a goat, speaking of black sheep, called Black Phillip. And one of the creepiest, cringe-inducing animals ever to put on screen is Black Phillip.
Well, goats naturally have those weird eyeballs. They're always kind of creepy. Yeah. So, but yeah, Black Phillip's great.
Yeah, Black Phillip is very creepy. But yeah, and the supernatural aspect of it, I think, is handled very effectively in dealing with very real circumstances of just a family struggling to survive, and then adding this supernatural element of, a witch and a possessed goat, and it's handled very well. It's got a great ending, another great ending.
Yeah.
But I certainly I'm not going to spoil the ending. But yeah, um, yeah, The Witch. Yeah, great horror film. Like you said, one of the best, more recent horror films. Uh, 2015, 91% score. Uh, okay, I don't think I've seen 119. The Endless, 2017. The Endless benefits from its grounded approach to an increasingly bizarre story elevated by believable performances by filmmakers Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. Uh, a 92% score, 2017, The Endless. I don't think I've seen it. So.
I have seen this. I really like this one. It ties in to some of the other films they've made. Some characters appear from some other films that they've directed. Um, but I can't remember if I've seen those movies. But this is basically about two brothers who grew up in a cult, basically. Not a super crazy cult or anything. Um, but as adults, they decide to go back and visit the compound where the cult is and kind of take a look at their childhood and stuff like that. And there's some really creepy, effective stuff in here. It's very like cosmic horror, kind of Lovecraftian kind of stuff. And there's some kind of like a lot of stuff that kind of screws with your head. But yeah, this is really good. I would definitely recommend it for people who are looking for something a little different. Um, it's not like a lot of other horror films that I've seen.
Huh. And okay, The Endless, and like I said, Aaron Moorhead and Justin Benson are directors, and they also both star in the film. So, yeah. Okay, definitely on the list. 119, The Endless, 92% score, 2017. Okay, 118 is another great classic, old. Was it Universal? It's Universal, isn't it? Universal.
Yep.
The Wolfman. Uh, a handsomely told tale with an affecting performance from Lon Chaney Jr. The Wolfman remains one of the classics of the Universal horror stable. And George Wagner directed Lon Chaney Jr., Claude Rains, Ralph Bellamy, Evelyn Ankers. 1941, 91% score, The Wolfman. And what can you say? That's what it's about. It's about the Wolfman.
Yep.
You know, that transition, when he turns into the Wolfman, where you just sort of dissolve into, he becomes hairier and his hands become hairier and his face becomes hairier, that early dissolve, transformation, scenes. But still a really good performance. Lon Chaney Jr., one of the best, of that era. Um, and but yeah. If you're in the mood for classic horror, you couldn't do much better than The Wolf. So hang on. Ennis, that's it. Melissa's here. She was. It was her and Tim took me to see.
Oh, okay.
We went to Ennis to drive it. Yeah, Ennis, Texas. It was about an hour and a half to get there. Stopped by Buc-ee's, and I got me some beaver nuggets, a bag of beaver nuggets, and a large Dr. Pepper to enjoy at the drive-in. But yeah, Ennis, Texas. So, but yeah, the Wolfman. I'm not a whole lot to say about it. What do you have to say about the Wolfman?
I think this one's kind of underrated, even though it's considered a classic. Obviously the look of the Wolfman, as time goes by, some people, age is always going to challenge the effectiveness of some of that stuff, but it's a really handsomely photographed film. And Lon Chaney Jr. never gets big acting props for a lot of his stuff. He does a good job in this film. And I think story-wise, this still has one of the best stories as far as a werewolf film goes. Um, but yeah, I really like the classic Universal monster films, though. So I'm partial to them. So.
Well, yeah, that's 118, the Wolfman. Yeah, it's a classic. You know, like the 117. I have seen this film a couple of times, but it has been so long since I've seen it that my memory's not vivid on this. This is one I definitely need to revisit here pretty soon. And that's the Descent, 2005, 87% score. Deft direction and strong performances from its all-female cast guide the Descent, a riveting, claustrophobic horror film. Neil Marshall directed, Shauna McDonald, Natalie Mendoza, Alex Reed. Yeah, and it's, you know, well, I'll let you take over. Kind of give what the plot is of the Descent.
Sure. It's basically a group of girlfriends who like to go caving, and they decide to go caving. I can't remember. It's like a reunion or something like that, or I can't quite remember the impetus for it. But they go into the cave and they get a little off course, and eventually they run into a race or clan of subterranean cannibal humanoid
Kind of humanoid,
freaks.
Creatures that I guess have been, born and bred in this cave, and so they're, yeah.
Right. And so it becomes it's a survival horror flick. The thing about this movie for me is I find the actual spelunking parts with them having to crawl through these, tiny gaps or getting stuck in rock. That's more harrowing for me than the monsters are in this movie.
I can imagine if you're if you have any kind of claustrophobia, that this would really have a lot of impact.
But yeah, if it's a lot of it's very serious, but it's also a lot of fun. And I think it's kind of a modern classic, post millennium.
This is you should definitely put this on your list for Halloween watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great Halloween movie. Yeah, The Descent. Definitely puts you in the Halloween mood. Okay, got a couple of more comments here. And I'm so sorry because I'm so nearsighted. I have to get right up to the screen. And Day Star Salt says it's a fun monster slasher, but the cave claustrophobia is worse than the monsters, like you said.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he says, "Oh, okay. We all had the same thought."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great minds.
Yeah, great minds. Yeah, but that the actual feeling you get of them crawling underground and in these tight enclosed areas is scary than the actual humanoid beasts that crawl around.
But I mean, any film with chuds in it is pretty entertaining.
So. Yeah, chuds. Yeah, yeah. But anyway, Neil Marshall, the director, and 87% score. The Descent, 2005. Oh gosh. Well, I had spoken about this. I think I had spoken about this in an earlier show. But anyway, I love this movie. I have this on DVD. I don't know if a Blu-ray or 4K. Did they recently put a 4K out of this?
Yeah, they put a 4K out, but it's pretty bad.
Yeah. Anyway, Duel. Steven Spielberg, 1971, 89% score. And of course, great Dennis Weaver. I love the old Gunsmoke show where Dennis Weaver is playing Chester.
Sure.
I grew up watching Dennis Weaver playing Chester, and So I remember when I first saw Duel, I was like, there's Chester. uh, but yeah, the great Dennis Weaver, Tim Herbert, Charles Seal, Eddie Firestone. Duel makes brilliant use of its simple premise, serving up rock solid genre thrills while heralding the arrival of a generational talent behind the lens. And of course, that talent would be Steven Spielberg. Uh, and oh man, this is another. I could do at least half a show talking about Duel. I just absolutely adore this movie. And basically, Dennis Weaver is just a man trying to get home from work, and he's driving along the road, and there's a diesel truck that's kind of in his way, so he passes this diesel truck, and you never see who's driving the diesel, but he's not pleased with being passed. And he spends the entire film hunting down Dennis Weaver, chasing him down in this diesel truck. And there's just a couple of shots you might see his hand. I think there's a scene where Dennis Weaver's at a truck stop or a little restaurant, and I think you see some feet, walking out of the truck, but you never see who's driving the truck. I almost wish that would be the one aspect where you never saw anybody. You didn't see a hand. You didn't see anything. It's like the truck itself is driving, and that's almost the way it's handled. Is that it's the truck that's pursuing Dennis Weaver. There's no one driving the truck. It's just the truck itself. It's pursuing Dennis Weaver. But some fantastic visuals, some fantastic shots, great direction by Steven Spielberg, and I think this is the film that got him the job for Jaws.
Sure.
Because basically Duel is Jaws with a truck. A lot of those shots in Jaws where you got the barrels, with the, chasing after the boat and all that is right out of Duel, the kind of same kind of shots with this truck pursuing Dennis Weaver. Oh gosh, like I said, I could go on and on, but I won't. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean it's a simple film, which is good, plays to its strengths, and I like. There's something about like road horror films that have a unique kind of quality and flavor, and this is probably, I mean, certainly not the first, but probably the most significant. Yeah, this is back when Spielberg had something to say, and the one thing I wish the TV cut was more easily available, because I do feel like the theatrical version does feel a little padded at times. And
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's interesting you bring that up, because, like I say, I've got the DVD version. Is that the so-called theatrical cut?
Apparently, all home video releases are the longer cut, and now there are some that purport to have the shorter version, but it's not the actual shorter version. It's kind of just a modified copy of the long version, because there were alternate shots and things like that in the TV version. They tried to recreate it for the new 4K, but
so the case was, of course, it was a shot from a TV movie, but I guess it was so successful, as a TV film, or so popular that they actually played it in theaters. And I guess when they played it in theaters, it's a different cut, a longer cut.
Right, they shot some additional stuff, and don't get me wrong, it's still fantastic in the long form. But I've always been curious about that shorter version, and if it's even leaner and meaner, if it's even more effective that way.
The very first time I saw it was on television, and I actually saw it 2 or 3 times on actual television. It was before I eventually, started getting on VHS and then DVD. So, but that's interesting because I didn't know that. I didn't know that those were two different cuts. I should have known that, but I didn't know that. but but anyway, yeah, Duel, early Spielberg, 1971, 89% score. It's a must watch. If you haven't seen Duel, well, you got to see it. 116. I don't think I've seen 115. The Love Witch, 2016, 95% score. Anna Biller directed. The Love Witch offers an absorbing visual homage to a bygone era, arranged subtly in service of a thought-provoking meditation on the battle of the sexes. Nope. Haven't seen The Love Witch. Have you seen?
No, I've seen like the trailer. It's very pretty, and it does look like like a '70s film, like a Italian or French kind of production. But for some reason, haven't really got around to watching it. I'm kind of wary of films that are homages to older styles and genres, because sometimes it's all style and not much substance.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, The Love Witch, 2016, 95% score. Anna Biller directed. Here's another one that I keep intending to see, but I still have not seen. Saint Maud, Rose Glass directed. 2019, 92% score. A brilliantly unsettling blend of body horror and psychological thriller, Saint Maud marks an impressive debut for writer-director Rose Glass. Speaking of that, to shift focus 1 second, it's a movie that I want to see. I probably have to wait until it streams, but have you seen The Substance?
No. It played in my theater for like 2 seconds, so I didn't get to go see it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of body horror,
yeah,
I hear it's very effective for that kind of film, but yeah. But anyway, Saint Maud. Hang on. Yeah, this is 2019, 92% score. Rose Glass directed. I won't try to pronounce her name. Well, I will try. Morfydd Clark, Jennifer Ellie, Lily Fraser, two Lilies, Lily Fraser and Lily Knight. But I don't think I've seen Saint Maud. So.
I've seen it. It's good. It's kind of it's a small film. It's mainly just like a two-hander, two characters. And it's mainly a character piece. There's not a lot of the horror elements are very sparse. But yeah, it's a decent for a first film. It's really good. And then she went on to direct Love Lies Bleeding, which was very, very successful.
Huh.
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth a watch.
Yeah. Okay, that's 114, Saint Maud. Another one, I really enjoy this one, but I love Westerns anyway, because of the old Clint Eastwood stuff and a lot of the John Wayne stuff. I've always really liked Westerns, because I grew up with my father. Just that was just the main kind of movies he liked was Westerns. J.C. Real. So I watched a lot of Westerns growing up. So it was cool to see a Western blended with horror in Bone Tomahawk. This is 2015, 91% score. Bone Tomahawk's peculiar genre blend won't be for everyone, but its gripping performances and a slow-burning story should satisfy those in search of something different. S. Craig Zahler? S. Craig Zahler?
Yeah, I think so.
And Kurt Russell, come on.
Yeah,
Kurt Russell, Patrick Wilson, Richard Jenkins, Matthew Fox. And but anyway, it's a Western horror film basically. What do you have to say?
Yeah, this one. I mean, it's a great little independent film. Fantastic cast. Uh, the 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 horror violence is intense. You know, some of those sequences is just, ooh, you know, you're not going to see that in any other westerns. You know, and yeah, even if you're not a big western person, if you're a horror person, you'll like this. But just between Kurt Russell and the gore. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's I guess it's a little non PC in a way. Some aspects of it, you know.
Yeah, I've heard things about this director too. Nothing I have details on, but
But
yeah, I
anyway,
mean it has a Native American actor in it playing a Native American character, but there is some potentially problematic back and forth
yeah, yeah.
in there, but it's
But yeah, Bold Tomahawk, it's a lot of fun and great. Of course, Kurt Russell, so many films that he's great in, so many horror films he's great in. And he's great in the next one on my list. And the
uh,
next the next one, one
112. That's
112,
insane,
ridiculous to be this low.
insane.
And it is my personal favorite horror film. I have said it many times, and that is John Carpenter's The Thing. And John Carpenter, what I loved about him, he began his films with his name, John Carpenter's Escape from New York. John
Hmm.
Carpenter's, whatever. John Carpenter, because he knew he had a distinctive style. He knew what he was putting forth was something that you weren't going to get from any other director. You were going to get something unique from him. And he was proud of that. And he spoke it plainly by starting every film with John Carpenter's. Now, of course, some are better than others. There's some classics, you know, but this one is my personal favorite horror film, The Thing. 1982, 85% score, grimmer and more terrifying than the 1950s take. John Carpenter's The Thing is a tense sci-fi thriller rife with compelling tension and some remarkable makeup effects. Uh, but it's Kurt Russell, Wilford Brimley, T.K. Carter, Richard Dysart. Uh, oh God, yeah, another one I could do a show just about The Thing and talk
Yeah.
just about The Thing. I'm going to hand it over to you. And this, what do you have to say about The Thing?
I mean, possibly the greatest horror film ever made.
My favorite.
The fact it was such a critical and financial failure at the time is not surprising when you consider that it came out the same year as E.T.
Is E.T. it's
And
it's the anti E.T.
it is the anti E.T., but everybody was
It's
drinking
the
that.
polar opposite of E.T.
Yeah. Well, you know, E.T. fully embraces that Ronald Reagan Morning in America perspective. And this is, like you said, the exact opposite. And apparently, people were drinking the Kool-Aid at the time. So, but I'm I'm just glad that it's gotten the credit it's deserved, and that John has been around to experience that. I just wish he got the money he deserved too, considering how popular it
Yeah.
was.
But when you talk about, particularly horror fans will decry, CGI versus practical effects. For me, the best practical effects ever put on film is Rob Bottin's effects of The Thing. Um, it still holds up tremendously.
Hmm.
I mean, I know how it's done, but I can still escape and, you know, uh, and I don't look at the scenes. I don't look at the effects. I just get lost in the story and get lost in the visuals, and where you see a UFO, an old classic UFO, hurtling through the sky at the very beginning, heading towards Earth, and then burned into the screen. The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing. And you find out it's an alien that can replicate any living creature. On my birthday show, I had Joe Garcia, T-shirt Joe, and we were talking about The Thing. And he talked about how fantastic that dog's performance is. And it is an amazing performance because the way that it'll kind of creep into a room and then kind of, but stop, and hesitate, and then creep into that room. And then, when it's being chased by a helicopter at the beginning of the movie, and it's in Antarctic, so it's, 80 below zero or whatever it is, and this compound, out in the Antarctic, and that helicopter is chasing this dog and shooting at this dog. And the way the dog will stop and look up, and then go run up, just a great performance by an animal. But the sense of one of the most frightening things, period, to me is mistrust of your fellow man. The not knowing if the person next to you has it in for you, or is who they say they are. Paranoia. This movie captures paranoia as an almost living thing. And the direction by Carpenter, and like I say, that the Rob Bottin effects, amazing. Yeah. My favorite horror film. So there you go. The Thing. Anything else you have to say about The Thing?
I do think it has some interesting things to say about masculinity. Because you've got this all-male cast, and these guys, they're scientists, but you don't really see them do any science. It's mainly they're just.
You don't really see them do anything.
Right. They're just these just a bunch of rugged dudes, and that doesn't help them at all. Being these manly men doesn't mean anything.
Well, and that damn hat that Kurt Russell wears.
Yeah, his cowboy hat. Yeah,
this cowboy hat, and Wilford Brimley going ape shit, and what's his name? Clark. Watch Clark. You hear me? And great performance by Wilford Brimley, who had the diabetes. And but anyway, like I say, I could do a whole show just about The Thing. My favorite horror film. Yeah, and like Noah said at the beginning, ridiculous at 112.
Yeah.
It should, even if it's not your favorite horror film, it should be probably top 5, at least. The Thing. Even if it's not your favorite. Okay. I saw this in the theater with a friend of mine, 2007, Grindhouse. And what was interesting about this, I saw it on Easter Sunday, and it snowed on Easter Sunday, is when I saw Grindhouse. And when we came out of the theater, there was like an inch of snow on the ground. And this is in Texas, which is, we rarely see any snow, except for that big freeze we had a few years ago. We rarely see snow, period, but to see it on Easter Sunday, after coming out of Grindhouse, yeah. But anyway, 2007, 84% score. Grindhouse delivers exhilarating exploitation fare with wit and panache, improving upon its source material with feral intelligence. And once again, we got Kurt Russell showing up, Rose McGowan, Freddie Rodriguez, Marley Shelton, directed by Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez. And it's a homage to the old horror films, the old, what they call Grindhouse, where you would go into these old beat up theaters and watch an old scratchy print and of a horror film. Like when I worked at Mahia Theater, these ancient projectors And by the time we would get a movie, it would be beat to hell, scratchy. I would have to do splices and put them together, because by the time my hand would get a movie, it had been out for like a couple of months. So by the time we got them, they'd be all scratched to hell and beat up. And that was the grindhouse feel, watching these old horror films. To me, Basket Case is my top grindhouse horror film. I did a watch along for Basket Case. And just the feel and the mood of Grindhouse and what is it? The Death Proof and Planet Terror are the two films. Death Proof is Quentin Tarantino, and Planet Terror is Robert Rodriguez. And then interspersed between the films, you have fake trailers. One of them being Thanksgiving that Eli Roth put out a few years. Was it last year?
Yeah.
He finally made the we talked about that, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. I don't know which one I prefer. Sometimes there'll be one year I prefer Planet Terror, and another year I prefer Death Proof. I think they're both fun. They're both different, very different. Great performance by Kurt Russell in Death Proof. But anyway, what do you have to say about Grindhouse?
Yeah, I saw it in the theater as well. Super fun experience. Kind of ahead of its time, I think. It didn't do super well financially when it was released. I think if you release this now, people would be all over it. Yeah, I mean, it generated what? 2, 3, 4 spin-offs. You've got 2 Machetes, a Thanksgiving, Hobo with a Shotgun, that even though that's not in the theatrical version, it was in some versions. Yeah. I think personally I prefer Death Proof a little bit, just because the cast, Kurt Russell again, and Stuntman Mike. Stuntman Mike's such a great character. Super sinister, and then it's just a sniveling little wiener
and
at the
he
end.
turns into a super pussy.
Yeah, I mean that's just awesome.
And a great shift where he turns into like this leering maniacal killer, and then he turns into the biggest pussy in the world.
Yep. But no, it's just good, clean fun.
Yeah, there you go. Good, clean fun. Grindhouse. That's the great way to describe it. Good, clean fun. But anyway, 84% score, 2007, Grindhouse. Yeah. If you haven't seen it, you got to see Grindhouse. And the little trailers are a lot of fun too. The fake trailers. This one, my problem is I can't see in 3D because I'm blind in my left eye. I'm like 95% blind in my left eye. I can see shapes and colors is all I can see out of my left eye. And the classic 3D, you needed to see pretty even in both eyes in order to bring the images together with those, was it red and blue specs or whatever you call that?
Yeah, stereoscopic or whatever.
And I think, they came out with the more modern version that I did better. I didn't see in true 3D, but I could see the film, the more modern 3D. But this is House of Wax. This is 1953, the great Vincent Price. Andre Detoth, director. House of Wax is a 3D horror delight that combines the atmospheric eeriness of the Wax Museum with the always chilling presence of Vincent Price. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. When I finally I actually went to a theater that had a revival of it in 3D, but it had those crappy blue and red specs, and I just basically got nauseous.
Yeah.
But the thing with what was it, the ball on the paddle,
Yeah.
at the screen, the paddle ball at the screen. And then, the House of Wax is a lot of fun. And Vincent Price is at his best. He's a lot of fun in this movie. And anyway, what do you have to say about House of Wax?
Yeah, I mean, I like any Vincent Price movie, basically, but I'm not a big 3D guy. I really don't. It's a fun gimmick, but it is just a gimmick. And I think in the day and age of, you know, being able, back then you couldn't own a film and watch it whenever you wanted. But now that you can, I think a lot of older 3D titles suffer. And I find the non 3D moments in this film very stodgy. It's a very undynamic photography in this film, aside from the 3D sequences.
Yeah.
That being said, I mean, classic House of Wax horror film with Vincent Price. I'm never going to kick it out of bed for eating crackers,
Yeah, me either. No. Yeah, no. But anyway, it's a 93% score, 1953, House of Wax. Andre de Toth, director. Vincent Price. The next one, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, 1931, 91% score. Robin Mamalian. I guess I'm terrible with these names. I'm terrible with these names. A classic, the definitive version of the Robert Louis Stevenson novella from 1931 with innovative special effects, atmospheric cinematography, and deranged overacting. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Yeah, I don't even know if this is my favorite version of it. There's one. Was it Spencer Tracy?
Yeah.
I like the Spencer Tracy version. I do like this version, but I think I almost prefer the Spencer Tracy version.
Interesting.
But anyway, 1931, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, a classic story. I don't really think I need to tell you what the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is. A duality of personalities, extreme, duality. But anyway, what do you have to say about this?
Yeah. I don't know if I can't remember how long it's been since I watched the Spencer Tracy version. I'd be interested to go back and rewatch that version. I have this one on Blu-ray. I love it. And I definitely, whether it's the best one or not, the fact that that's even a debate after like 93, 94 years after it was made, still considered the best version of the story. Fantastic. And if you're into special effects, the in-camera transformation effects in this film are amazing and fascinating to read about or look up some YouTube documentaries about it.
I think I've seen a documentary about just about that, how they achieve the effects.
Yeah.
It was really interesting.
Yeah.
But anyway, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, that's 109, 1931, 91% score. It's a classic. And, oh gosh, another one that's too low on the list. I saw this. I was working at Mejia Theater at the time as projectionist, and this came when I was working there. And, I was so busy in the projection room because it's these old beat up projectors that were made in like 1912 or something, And so I'm having to keep my eye on them. It was these two carbon rods that you close together and they lit up. They lit on fire, and that was how you lit the fucking movie.
Jesus.
The movie was literally lit by fire. So I had to maintain those. You had to keep them together, so they didn't go out. These two carbon rods, kind of like, and it had like a welder's hood that come over it, so you wouldn't burn your eyes looking at it. So I was so preoccupied with monitoring the projectors, I didn't see Return of the Living Dead the first couple of times I projected it, and until I actually went with a friend, my friend Barry, went to the theater and sat and watched the film because I could see all my movies for free at the Mejia Theater since I worked there.
Sure.
And just taking in Return of the Living Dead was just delightful. To see it in a theater for the first time, didn't know a thing about it other than just seeing little clips of it as I was projecting it. But I couldn't really grasp enough to, I knew it was zombies, could tell that definitely it was zombies, but had no idea how much fun it was going to be, how unique it was going to be for its genre, uh, and that it was going to be one of my favorite horror films of all time. That easily in my top 10, Return of the Living Dead. Oh, God. Yeah. Uh, it's a horror comedy, pretty much. Some great moments. Was it the We've got a little problem? That's one of my favorite lines in the movie, favorite moments from the movie. We've got a little problem. And the problem is there's these two guys that are working at a, what was it? Was it a morgue or what was it?
It was a medical supply.
Medical supply. Yeah, medical supply company. And one guy is showing the new guy the ropes on how to pack skeletons in the plastic peanuts and all that. And then they take a break, and he sits down and tells him that the movie Night of the Living Dead is based on a real, true case. That there were human beings that were resurrected and that were brought down, and their bodies are contained in these canisters in this fluid that keeps them suspended. And there's a body in the basement of this medical warehouse. And so the boss takes the guy, the newcomer down to there and shows him the canister that's got this zombie body contained in it. And of course, he accidentally breaks open the canister and this fluid spills out everywhere and emerges. What's his name? What's the zombie's name?
Tarman.
Tarman. Yeah, Tarman. Brains. More brains. Anyway, a great zombie movie, and it's a comedy. It's a horror comedy. Great special effects, great practical effects, where you get the girl zombie that she's half, her half her body's in that table, and great practical effects. Some very funny moments, some and some. If you're a heterosexual male, then you will enjoy. What's her name?
Linnea Quigley.
Linnea Quigley, who strips mostly naked. Dan O'Bannon, director. Clu Gulager, the great Clu Gulager. James Karen, Don Calfa, Tom Matthews, Dan O'Bannon, director. 91% score, 1985. Return of the Living Dead. I've talked too much. Go ahead.
There's not much else to say. I love the cast. So many great character actors. As far as horror comedies go, I think it's easily the best. I don't think it's ever been topped. Maybe the only other one close is American Werewolf in London. Yeah, I mean, what can you say? If you haven't seen it, there's something wrong with you, and if you've seen it and you didn't like it, there's even more wrong with you. So,
well, like I say, for me, as what was it, 1985, so I would have been 18 maybe, and sitting at that old beat-up Mahia Theater and watching the old beat-up print of Return of the Living Dead was just the perfect way to watch it, kind of like watching Terrifier 3 at the drive-in. This was the perfect way. This was the perfect way to watch Return of the Living Dead at the old Mahia Theater, and with a packed audience, and just taking in this hilarious, fun zombie movie that's a classic. Well, like I said, yeah, way, way, way too low on the list at 108.
Just remember, rabid weasels.
Rabbit weasels.
Rabid weasels.
Yeah, rabbit weasels. Okay, but anyway, yeah, Return of the Living Dead. What can you say? One of the all-time greats. 107, I have still not seen. I've got a friend that has had a Blu-ray of this for like 10 years, and I kept intending to borrow it from him, and I still have not done it. This is House, 1977, 91% score. I'm not going to even try to pronounce the director's name. uh, uh, Asian, I guess you'd call it a horror film. Would you call it a horror film?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. House is a gleefully demented collage of grand guignol guffaws in bizarre sequences. And bizarre is what I keep hearing about the film, that it is just couldn't be weirder. It's bizarre. But anyway, talk about House.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it 2 or 3 times. I couldn't even begin to tell you what it's about. I mean, the story is pretty much non-existent. It's just fucking batshit crazy, you know.
Well, it's called
thing after-
House, so I'm assuming it's basically a haunted house.
Yeah, and apparently, I guess the director based the film on his young daughter's dreams. So it's like a kooky horror dream sequence, and it's both disturbing but also like campy at the same time and funny. Yeah, it's if you want to do some drugs and watch a horror movie, you know, well, maybe I don't recommend it. I don't know.
House and Mandy.
House and Mandy double feature. Yep.
Yeah. I still have not seen it. Someday I'm going to watch this damn movie, House.
You got to watch it at least once.
Yeah, that's what I hear, that you need to see House at least once. And I still have not seen it. Someday I'm going to watch House. Okay, but anyway, that's 107, 91% score, 1977 House. Okay. And like I say, I'm not going to pronounce, I'm not even going to try and pronounce the actors' names or the director, but it's Asian. It's, what is it? What's the
Japanese?
Japanese. It's Japanese, yeah. Okay. Okay. I have a DVD box set that's got all of Christopher Lee's Dracula films on it. And I grew up watching the Christopher Lee Dracula stuff and Peter Cushing as Van Helsing. And this is Horror of Dracula. Trading gore for grandeur, Horror of Dracula marks an impressive turn for inveterate Christopher Lee as the titular vampire, and a typical Hammer mood that makes aristocracy quite sexy. Yeah, Christopher Lee was the coolest vampire, the coolest Dracula. He was. You wanted to be Christopher Lee's Dracula. You wanted to hang out with Christopher Lee's Dracula.
Yeah.
He was. You would probably die if you did.
Yeah.
but you wanted to be his buddy, because to me, Christopher Lee was the Dracula. Because I know there's some that would shout from the rooftops, no, it's but for me, he was the Dracula. Because growing up, watching old Channel 11 come out of Dallas and Fort Worth, showed all the Christopher Lee Dracula films and showed the Godzilla films and all that, the old, Universal horror films. But I always just loved Christopher Lee as Dracula. I always thought he was just the coolest guy in the world. I grew up wanting to be him.
Right.
And Terence Fisher, director, Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee, Michael Gall, Melissa Stribling, 1958, Horror of Dracula. What do you have to say?
This is probably in my top 10. I absolutely love this film. Easily the best version of Dracula. Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee are like two of my heroes. Terence Fisher is a friggin' genius. And it's just so, Christopher Lee is so he's incredibly suave.
Suave. There you go.
Yeah. And even if he doesn't have any dialogue, he does have dialogue in this, but not much. And in the sequel, he has absolutely zero dialogue. But he's such a good actor. You know, he can portray like loneliness, the sexiness, or coolness, and the first like really monstrous Dracula too. You know, very intense, and the action in this movie, particularly the final chase. If you contrast that to say, 1931's Todd Browning's Dracula with Bela Lugosi, you kind of have this staid off-stage staking. It's very low-key and anticlimactic. Whereas this, you've got that final chase in the ballroom with him, leaping on the curtains and pulling them down, and he's got the candlesticks. And, I just love it. Yeah, well, I just love everything
that you brought up is how cool he is, but when he gets mean, he is effective. Christopher Reeve always was. Oh, cool.
This just came out as a Christopher Lee.
Oh, cool. That's a really good likeness too.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. But yeah, all of them. I love all of them to varying degrees. I love them.
Sure.
I love them all. I love all the Christopher Lee. For me, he was the Dracula. It wasn't Bela Lugosi. It was Christopher Lee.
Yeah, I even like the silly ones where he's in the 1970s and Sweden, London, and all.
What was it? The Dracula 1970? Is that the name of it?
Dracula 1972 AD.
And then 72 AD. Yeah. But yeah, cool. And his, the vampire mistresses that he'd buy and get him some vampire gals to, follow, to worship him and all that. Anyway, he was the coolest Dracula there ever was, Christopher Lee. Okay, but anyway, Horror of Dracula, 106, 1958, 91% score. And this one, I know I've seen it, but I don't remember a thing about it. And this is the Cat and the Canary, 1927, 93% score. Bringing its sturdy setup thrillingly to life, The Cat and the Canary proves Paul Lenny, a director with a deft hand for suspenseful stories and expertly assembled ensembles. Paul Lenny directing, Laura LaPlante. Anyway, I don't have anything to say about it because I don't remember hardly any of it. So, Cat and the Canary.
I have not seen this exact version. This story has been made 80,000 times. There's a ton of different versions of Cat and the Canary. And they're all just basically Agatha Christie's, and then there was none. But it is on my list because Paul Lenny did The Man Who Laughs, if you're familiar with that silent film. So he's got great visual silent film director. But
The Man Who Laughs, that's the one that kind of Joker face.
Yeah,
So
exactly. So I'm sure this is good, but haven't seen it.
But anyway, that's 105, Cat and the Canary, 1927, 93% score. This one came out, I guess, after with the Blair Witch Project kind of. I don't know if it really invented the found footage. Yeah, the found footage style, but it definitely made it popular. Blair Witch Project, and this is a film that came out after that, and I think does it pretty well itself. And this is Wreck, 2007, 90% score. Plunging viewers into the nightmarish hellscape of an apartment complex under siege, Wreck, as in record, REC, proves that found footage can still be used as an effective delivery mechanism for sparse economic horror. 2007, 90% score. Jean Bargo. Once again, I'm going to try to pronounce that name. Two directors, Paco Plaza and the other one. Rick. Anyway, 2007. Anyway, what do you have to say about Rick?
This is another one of my favorites. I think it's easily the best post Blair Witch found footage film. It's very. I like the idea of demonic zombies, which is basically it's like Evil Dead meets the Blair Witch. You know, super intense, great action, really well photographed. Boring ass American remake of this. Quarantine, I think it was called. But yeah, if you haven't seen this, it was hard to find a decent copy of this for many years. But there's now readily available Blu-ray and Blu-ray box set. So definitely check it out. One of my favorites.
Okay, and that's 104 Rick, 2007, 90% score. Yeah. Oh, this next movie, I really enjoy this one. And this one has a very unusual feel to it. And this is 1942's Cat People, 92% score. Jacques Tourneur, I'm mastering the name, of course. Influential neo director Jacques Tourneur infused this sexy, moody horror film with some sly commentary about the psychology and the taboos of desire. I don't even necessarily call it a horror film. I just find it very creepy, and yeah, it is sexy, particularly for its time. But this is 1942, and yeah, Cat People. Anyway, what do you have to say about Cat People? I might enjoy the remake even better than this version, but this version is very good. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think this version is very, what's the word? It's very subtle compared to the remake. It's very, I can't put my finger on the word, but yeah, it's got a great atmosphere. It's like all atmosphere, and Jacques Tourneur is
there you go.
Directing. Yeah, his directing is fantastic. Yeah, I could definitely see. I had to watch this like 2 or 3 times before I really felt like I got a grip on it. So much of it was understated, but yeah, it's a classic. So if you like the Universal horror stuff, this is kind of along those veins.
Yeah. But anyway, 1942, Cat People, 92% score. And here's another one. It's been a while since I've seen this, but I quite enjoyed it when I saw it. I think I've only seen it once, and this is The Conjuring, 2013, 86% score. Well crafted and gleefully creepy, The Conjuring ratchets up dread through a series of effective old school scares. And James Wan, he's directed a bunch of popular horror films. Vera Farmiga, Patrick Wilson, Lily Taylor, Ron Livingston, and kind of creepy kid in it. Yeah. When you bring children into a horror film, you got to be careful with that and the way you handle that. But I think The Conjuring handles it very well, and it's the kid is really creepy. But anyway, what do you have to say? What do you have to say about The Conjuring?
Yeah, I mean, I think Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson as the leads. They're great together as the husband and wife team, and James Wan's. I don't know if I'd call him an amazing director, but always reliable. Always does something interesting. I'm not as big a fan of this series as I was of the Insidious stuff that he did. I kind of preferred that.
Yeah, they made several. How many sequels have they made of The Conjuring?
I think 4. 3 or 4.
I've just seen the first 2. So,
yeah. But yeah, I mean it's a solid haunted house movie basically. Though, if you enjoy The Conjuring or the Conjuring films, do not read up on the real life Lorraine and Ed Warren, because other than being complete and total frauds, Ed did some questionable things with younger girls. So not the best role models. But as far as a fictional film goes, it's pretty entertaining, and they're pretty compelling characters.
Yeah. Okay, well, this is 102, The Conjuring, 2013, 86% score. And of course, James Wan, like I say, he's done a bunch of popular films. I've seen this film, and it was one that I need to revisit because I don't remember a lot of the details about it, other than I thought it was really effective. Barbarian, 2022, 92% score. Smart, darkly humorous, and above all scary, Barbarian offers a chilling and consistently unpredictable thrill ride for horror films. It's a A24 film, isn't it?
I don't know. I thought it was a Netflix original, but I could be
Maybe.
wrong.
I thought maybe it was an A24 film. But anyway, Zach Kreger directed. But yeah, but you go ahead and talk about Barbarian.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. I like that it every 20, 30 minutes it becomes kind of a different movie. Because it starts off in the house and there's, a lot of creeping and suspicion, and then you get into the stuff underneath, and by the end you've got this kind of chase sequence. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun. It's different, which is good. It's not just, something we've seen 1,000 times. I think the Georgina Campbell's really good in the lead, and Justin Long is particularly funny in this as a kind of a despicable, unlikable dude. But yeah, this is a good seasonal watch, I think.
Yeah, and a good Halloween watch.
Yeah.
And I think it's on Shudder. I think I need to watch it here pretty soon. But yeah, Barbarian 101, 2022, 92% score. Zach Kreger directing. Oh gosh, 100. It's interesting that after this movie came out, the powers that be said, "Hey, here's a good director for the Lord of the Rings movie."
Sure.
And this is Dead Alive. And what's the original title of that?
Brain Dead.
Brain Dead, yeah. This is 1992, 89% score. Peter Jackson, director. Oh gosh, let me read what it says. The delightfully gonzo tale of a love-struck teen and his zombified mother. Dead Alive is extremely gory and exceedingly good fun, thanks to Peter Jackson's affection for the tastelessly sublime. I think that's a good way of describing it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine how many gallons of fake blood this movie unloads onto the screen. It's hilarious. It's over the top gory. It's funny. Great gonzo special effects, practical effects. And who did the effects for Dead Alive?
I don't know.
I forget who did that, but I should know that who did the zombie effects. But yeah, it's a comedy. It's a horror comedy. The ending where the lead character has a push lawnmower, and he's extracting zombies with the lawnmower blades, and is over. It's over the top. It's very, very gory, but it's funny gory. It kind of like we're talking about Tucker and Dale versus Evil. It's kind of on that level of extreme gore, but fun. gore.
Yeah.
But anyway, what do you have to say about Dead Alive?
Yeah, this movie is gross as hell. That the dinner sequence with the pus and I have a hard time with that. That one gets to
The,
me a little bit.
the little zombie baby,
Oh yeah, yeah.
uh, and the giant zombie mother, and
Oh yeah,
and
uh,
talk about gross. uh,
yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
uh, and
It's
where
super
he,
funny, super funny. The famous scene with the priest is always a classic.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's funny as hell. It's a whole lot of fun. It's another good Halloween watch. Dead
yeah,
Alive. Yeah,
yeah.
put that on your Halloween watch list. Dead Alive.
If you
Uh,
can find a copy,
if you can find a copy, I've got a copy. I've got a
that's
DVD.
good.
Yeah,
It's still hard to get a hold of.
yeah. Uh, but is Brain Dead a different cut?
I think there may be some small differences, but I think they're pretty much the same. Um, I'm not 100% certain.
Yeah. But anyway, but yeah, the early Peter Jackson film, and like I say, he went on to do all the Lord of the Rings films and the Hobbit films, and this is it's just like when the amount of money they spent on those Lord of the Rings films that they decided that this is the man to direct those films, which he
Yeah,
did a great job, but
yeah,
to how they looked at this and thought that he was would be the man for that job, but he was the man for that job. Yeah, Peter Jackson's Dead Alive, whole lot of fun. Yeah, put that on your Halloween watch list. 100 number 100, 1982, 89% score. So yeah. Um, Here's another one on my watch list that I have not seen this movie. I hear a lot of people say it's really good, and that's Don't Breathe, 2016, 88% score. Don't Breathe smartly twists its sturdy premise to offer us a satisfyingly tense, chilling addition to the home invasion genre that's all the more effective for its simplicity. And Fede Alvarez directed. Um, and Jane Levy, Dylan Minetti. Uh, but anyway, I haven't seen Don't Breathe, but I hear it's really good, and I haven't seen. But have you seen?
haven't seen it either. I don't know. I should.
Yeah. Okay. uh, but anyway, yeah, it's got an 88% score. 2016's Don't Breathe. Fede Alvarez. That director's. The name's familiar. I don't know what else he's directed.
Well, he just did that Alien Romulus.
Oh, he did Alt Romulus. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he did the Evil Dead remake.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So he's got a good visual sense, whether you like his movies or not.
Yeah. But yeah, number 99, Don't Breathe. It's definitely on my watch list. I think maybe it might be on Shudder also. Okay, we're going back to Universal Horror with Phantom of the Opera. Well, no, it's not. Is it Universal? This isn't Universal, is it?
No.
Yeah, no, it's not Universal. 1925, Phantom of the Opera, 90% score. I don't even know if I necessarily call this a horror film. But anyway, decades later, it still retains its ability to scare, and Lon Chaney's performance remains one of the benchmarks of the horror genre. Yeah, I guess it is a horror film. But Rupert Julian, director of the great Lon Chaney, Mary Philbin. It's a silent film. Yeah, 1925's Phantom of the Opera, and of course, everyone has seen that clip, where he takes his mask off and he turns to her, and you see that makeup, great makeup that I think he did on himself. Lon Chaney, didn't he?
Yeah, he always did his own.
Yeah. And great makeup. He did, like I say, he did his own makeup. But anyway, what do you have to say about Phantom of the Opera?
I was wrong. This is Universal. I just looked it up.
Oh, it is Universal. Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's the definitive version of the story. Like you said, that scene with Lon Chaney's face is an immortal sequence, basically. My favorite sequence in the film that a lot of people don't talk about is when the Phantom goes to the ball dressed as the Red Death. That visually, that scene is amazing. Maybe one of my maybe top 20 scenes visually from a horror film. But yeah, it's way better than the book. Don't read the book. The book is terrible. So.
What about the Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical?
I'm not a musical person,
Yeah.
but I did take some theater courses in college, and one of them was taught by this older woman who was a veteran of the stage, and she summed up Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera, saying that it is a play about a chandelier.
About what?
It's a play about a chandelier. Because that's the reason people went for that chandelier falling sequence, and that was it. Nobody cares. It's not very good.
Well, it'd been playing forever. It finally closed its production here like a year or two ago, but it'd been playing forever. Yeah.
Yeah, people love that stuff. It's like Cats, and
I'm not a musical person either. I love Rocky Horror Picture Show. I love Little Shop of Horrors. But I'm not a musical person either. I love those too, but
no shade on people who like Andrew Lloyd Webber or anything. It's just I don't get
it. Yeah, me either. I watched and I sat and watched the whole thing, Jesus Christ Superstar. And I sat and watched that whole damn movie. I don't know if it was on AMC Plus or something. And I sat and watched I sat down and watched that damn thing. And at the end of it, I was going like, oh, shit. It's hippie bullshit. Is what it is. Jesus Christ Superstar is hippie bullshit. A hippie bullshit version of the Jesus story.
Yeah.
But I watched the whole damn thing. There was a few songs I kind of liked, but the overall movie and story, I was like, hippie bullshit. But anyway, the next one, I don't know how I feel about this one. I almost feel like this is just a little too precious. And this is Ginger Snaps. This is 2000. A strong female cast and biting satire of teenage life makes Ginger Snaps far more memorable than your average werewolf movie or teen flick. John Fawcett, director. Emily Perkins. Catherine Isabel. Mimi Rogers is in it. A 90% score. Yeah, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've seen it, so maybe I need to revisit it, and maybe my opinion may have changed on it. But I just thought it was just a little too. I guess maybe it just wouldn't. I wasn't the audience for it. I guess for Ginger Snaps. It's made mainly for teenagers, And I was too old for it at the time, because in 2000, what is it? I would have been close to 30. And Ginger Snaps just it was okay. I didn't think it was bad by any stretch. But it was like, female werewolf movie, but it's more about their sort of teenage interactions with each other. And I don't know. But anyway, what do you have to say about Ginger Snaps?
I get that. I think I really like this movie and the series, but I do think it is a little overrated in the respect that people just thought it was very clever, and maybe they gave it too much credit, I think. It is a entertaining popcorn movie mainly,
Yeah.
The themes, it wears its themes on its sleeve. It's not subtle. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not doing anything crazy. So I mean, I think if you take it on its own merits, it's very good.
I think I actually like part two better.
I think. Oh, part two is great. Very
Yeah,
underrated. Yeah.
and I love part two's ending. Uh,
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
No, absolutely. I agree. Part two is the best of the three.
yeah. But
Um,
anyway, yeah, that's Ginger Snaps. Number 90, 97, 90% score. John Fawcett, director. Um, oh God. Ooh, another one that should be higher on the list.
mhm.
I don't necessarily know if it's a horror film, but it's a movie that's almost impossible to categorize. So
Yeah.
you might as well call it a horror film. And that's
Yeah. Sure.
a David Lynch's Eraserhead. 1977, 89% score. David Lynch's surreal Eraserhead uses detailed visuals and a creepy score to create a bizarre and disturbing look into a man's fear of parenthood. Oh gosh, that's another one I could do a whole show just talking about Eraserhead.
Hmm.
And I was going to North Texas State University the year after it became the University of North Texas in Denton, Texas. Uh, and they had a four-screen theater there that would often play revivals or older films and cult films and stuff. They every Saturday night at least one screen was devoted to the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So I saw it like 10 times while I was going to. So I know I love that movie. I know every music, every beat of that movie. But Eraserhead would play there occasionally, and that's where I saw it at that four-screen theater in Denton, Texas. And just sat there. It wasn't a whole lot. When I saw it, there wasn't many people in the theater. And I guess I'll call it a horror film because I got lost in just this bizarre, creepy film by David Lynch. And almost impossible to categorize, almost impossible to describe.
Yeah.
You've got this man, and it's his wife or girlfriend, and they have a baby that's this mutant. It's got this long neck, and basically they have a mutant baby, and you got the lady in the radiator. And what's the song she sings in the radiator?
In heaven, everything is fine.
In heaven, yeah. And oh God, yeah. Eraserhead is just a film you can't hardly describe it. You just have to see it. And to see it is to encounter something really creepy and unusual and indescribable almost. Anyway, what do you have to say about the Eraserhead?
Yeah. For me, this is I am a huge David Lynch fan. This movie, for me, is real hard to watch because, I mean, it's one of those few films that genuinely bothers me. On a psychological and an emotional level. It's an experience, and yeah, I don't know. It's hard to put into words. It's just a distressing film.
Yes. Very good way to describe it. Distressing. Yes. And like it said, in dealing with a man's struggle with parenthood, responsibility, with attachment to another person, with it's a movie about isolation. It's oh God, there's so many different themes to this movie, but it is really disturbing, and it's an example of a very unique mind of David Lynch. Then when you see this, it's like, well, who would come up with something like this? And that would be David Lynch. you know, but yeah, he's one of my favorite directors too. There's so many, Blue Velvet, and there's so many of his films.
Oh yeah.
But
People will ask me like, "What's the scariest movie you've ever seen?" And most movies aren't genuinely scary to me, but several sequences from several David Lynch films are maybe the most afraid I've ever been watching a movie.
Yeah.
Stuff like Eraserhead, stuff from Mulholland Drive, Lost Highway, with Robert Blake. That sequence. Yeah. It's intense stuff.
Yeah. But anyway, that's Eraserhead, 1977, 89% score. David, was it his first film? David Lynch's
his first full length film. Yeah.
I remember seeing these. It's a bunch of short films, but what I remember most visibly, or most memorably, was it's letters of the alphabet eating each other.
Yeah, that's one.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is before Eraserhead. He made these little short films, and just, oh my goodness, yeah.
Oh yeah.
He can get under your skin, David Lynch, and Eraserhead gets under your skin. So, I guess I will call it a horror film.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. Now the next movie. The next one, we'll end with this one. We'll end with 95.
Okay.
Now, this one, I think the original film is the best version of this. And I don't know why this is on the list and not maybe the other one is on this list too, but this is This is Let Me In. This is 2010, 88% score. Similar to the original in all the right ways, but with enough changes to stand on its own. Let Me In is a rare Hollywood remake that doesn't add insult to inspiration. Matt Reeves, director. Cody Smith McPhee, Chloe, the hit girl, Chloe Grace Moretz. Basically, she's a vampire. She's a little girl, preteen girl. She's a vampire. And she develops a relationship with this little boy he's oppressed. He's this weird little nerdy kid that can't catch a break. He's bullied at school. And he meets this girl that turns out to be a vampire. And they develop a close relationship. And she's kind of his protector. She's his guardian. She's his companion. And yeah, but the original film is called Let the Right One In, and it's a far superior version of this film, Let Me In. Now, I don't think Let Me In is bad. I like it. I think it does add a few things to it that I kind of like, but it pales by comparison to Let the Right One In, the original film. And what country did that come from?
Sweden, I think.
Sweden, yeah. Now, I made a movie 22 years ago called Dawn about a little girl vampire and her human father. And when Let the Right One In came out, I got angry. I was like, they stole my movie. I thought maybe they got a hold of a VHS copy of my movie and they ripped me off. And I was so mad until I saw the movie and just thought, well, this is a great film. But anyway, this is the American remake of Let the Right One In. Let Me In. Like I say, it's not bad, but it pales in comparison to the original. But anyway, what do you have to say?
I'm a huge fan of the original film, and I've heard good things about this, but I never watched it because I just didn't feel like, for me anyway, there was any reason to.
Yeah, you got the original. You don't need this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's good. It's good actors. People worked hard on it, but it's just not. I just didn't need it.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. Like I say, it's not bad. 95, Let Me In. 2010, Matt Reeves directed. Yeah, I think it's okay, but if you are a fan of the original, like you say, there really is no strong reason no strong recommendation. I have to see this version.
I
It's
mean,
got
if you struggle with subtitles, I understand, you
yeah.
know, but
Well, I sit right in front of the TV here, so I'm okay with the subtitles. I do pretty good with the subtitles.
that's good.
But and also the original, I don't think it really relies heavily on the subtitles. A lot of it is visual, like that. You could almost watch it.
Yeah,
You could almost watch Let the Right One In as a silent film and know what's going on.
yeah. There's not much dialogue really.
Yeah. I read the original book that this is versed on. The book is called, it's like the title of the remake is called Let Me In. That's the original title of the book also. Let Me In. And the girl, Ellie, is that her name? Ellie? Uh, she's not actually a girl.
Right.
She's a castrated boy. Before, when she was turned into a vampire, she was castrated, or he was castrated. And but you assume it's a girl, and basically it's played as a girl.
Yeah.
I don't really know if they even touch on that aspect in the remake, but they do very briefly in the original.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll end with that one. So, what number is that? That is 95. Let me in.
Mm-hmm.
And number 94 would be other people's number one film. I'll say that.
Definitely.
Yeah. And it should not be 94. It should be much higher. It might be 3 or 4 for me. I'm not sure. The next one. So, but okay. And we'll continue this again. And I'm jumping way ahead here. But if you're up for it, give it some thought. I like these lists because it good conversation and such as this. It's the IMDb's top 100 films. Films, period. And what's interesting in real briefly going through the list, and you can look it up, it's just, IMDb top 100 films, is there's several on the list that are on this list.
Mm.
There's several on the list of favorite films that are on the list of favorite horror films. I saw number 1, and I'm like, okay, I'm not mad at it, but I don't agree with it. I'm not mad at number 1. I can see why it would be number 1 for a lot of people, but that's all I'll say. But okay, we'll end with that, and like I say, we'll 5 or 6 days we'll resume this. I don't know if we'll be able to finish up with the what do we got left? How many do we have left?
94 left.
Yeah, 94 left. So yeah, we might be another 2 shows.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been a good one. Definitely some good ones on the list, and more examples of ones that I definitely would rate higher on the list. Several that I haven't seen, so I've got a long list of movies I need to see. But okay, thank you, Aaron, once again. This has been a good one. As I say to you guys, please give us, if you're watching this and enjoying what you're seeing, please give us a thumbs up. Spread the word. Let other folks know about the shows, the Being Real shows. This has been a good series, I think, what we've been doing here, talking about these horror films. And I like the lists because, like I say, that get some good conversation with these. Yeah. So, oh, pardon me. I need to eat. I had a sandwich. It was peanut butter and Nutella and skim milk, but I need to eat something more. So
yes, you need something substantial.
I need something more substantial than that. But okay, Noah, thank you, everyone. And we only had was it 1 or 2 that chimed in? Melissa, thank you. Day Starsall and the Poet, thank you for chiming in, and thank you everybody for watching. And we will see you guys soon. And yeah, thank you, Noah. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.